Hey friends, so good to see you. This is week 10 of our art class for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. This week we are going to be drawing some pattern pumpkins. So just like we've been working on our patterns the last few weeks, we're going to be adding some more and designing some really cool pumpkins. Let's get started. Have you guys seen any weird looking pumpkins this year? Sometimes people carve them and make them look really cool. Other times they just grow and look interesting all on their own. Have you guys ever seen pumpkins like this? Pumpkins can be grown in all different shapes and sizes, which makes them so fun for artists because they look bumpy or rough and they can have all kinds of cool textures. A texture is something that you can feel. For example, if you touch your hair, it might be soft or spiky or rough. If you touch your shirt, it might be smooth or fuzzy. If you touch the bottom of your shoe, it might be bumpy or rough. Those are all textures that you can feel with your hands. In art, visual texture is texture that you can see. So if I look at my picture of the wave, it actually looks like if I could touch it, it would be kind of bumpy. But it's just on a piece of fabric. So do you think it's actually bumpy? No, that's because it's texture that I can see with my eyes. One way of making a pumpkin look like it has a cool texture is by adding a bunch of patterns. That way it looks like it could be rough or bumpy. This is called visual texture. So it's something that you can see even if you can't feel it. We're going to be adding some visual texture to our pumpkins today. We're going to look at some artwork by an artist named Yayoi Kusama in order to get some ideas. Yayoi Kusama is a Japanese artist and she does some very interesting things. What do you notice about her artwork? Yayoi Kusama really likes polka dots and patterns, and she decorates a lot of things with them. We're going to be thinking about how we can decorate our pumpkins with some patterns. Just like usual, I think it's best to start with a pencil when we're sketching so that it's easier to erase if you do something that you don't like. But use any art materials that you have. And if you don't have any art materials, you can draw using Seesaw. If you need help, ask an adult or talk to me. Send me a message and I'll definitely help you. We are going to start by finding the middle of our page. Once you find the middle of your page, you're going to use your finger to trace out a tall, skinny oval. That is going to be the center of our pumpkin. So let's start by sketching that tall, skinny oval. All right, doesn't look like a pumpkin yet, but we'll get there. So now that we have our first oval, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to draw a bump, and then I'm going to curve it down and do another bump, almost like a letter C or a backward C, depending on how you guys are looking at it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So, big curve, curve it around, and then curve it back this way. And then we're going to do it again on both sides. So a C and a backward C, a bump. This one's going to be a little rounder. Then we're going to curve it in. We'll do a bump and then curve it in. Now we have a really bumpy pumpkin. And we're going to draw the stem of our pumpkin. So right here in the middle, I'm going to do a curved line up, a line that goes to the side, and then curve my line back down. So now I have the shape of my pumpkin. At this point, I'm ready to start adding some patterns, but I think I'm going to go over it with a marker so that I can see it a little bit better. Now that I have my pumpkin traced, I'm ready to start adding some patterns. I'm going to add a different pattern in each section of my pumpkin. If you want, you can add a face too. Remember, a pattern in art is Anytime you repeat the same shape or line over and over again, we're going to be filling each part of our pumpkin with another shape or pattern that we repeat. Now that I drew my patterns, I'm going to use a little trick to make my pumpkin look a little bit 3D. I'm going to go down to the bottom and add some little curved shadows on each of my little sections. And I'm going to make the shadow a little bit bigger on one side. After I draw my shadows and I make them a little bit bigger on one side, I'm going to draw a shadow on the ground and then a little bit to the side where they were a little bit bigger. Now it looks like my pumpkin's just a little bit more 3D, and I'm ready to color it. I'm going to make my shadows a little darker with my orange, and I'm probably going to add some other colors as well. You guys are little, so I am not worried about the shadows. What I want you guys to do right now is just make sure that you are coloring neatly and trying to stay inside of your lines. Remember, a trick to staying inside of your lines is to trace the outside edges first and then carefully color them in. Once you finish coloring all of the patterns in your pumpkin, you can add extra details around it. You could draw extra pumpkins or other things from your imagination. It's up to you. Your objectives. I can draw the shape of a pumpkin using curved lines. Number 2, I can fill each section of my pumpkin with different patterns. And I can carefully color each section, making sure that I stay inside of the lines. En español, yo puedo dibujar la figura de una calabaza usando lineas curvas. Número 2. Yo puedo llenar cada sección de mi calabaza con patrones y colorearlos completamente, quedarse entre de las líneas. I can't wait to see what you guys do. I'll see you in art class.